Welcome back to Alice Talks Football and welcome back to another live Manchester United news, transfer news and update show. In today's live stream, we're going to be talking about a few things. We're going to talk about Sesko, Gary Neville's weird comments on Sesko, a little bit early for these kind of comments. We're going to talk about Romano dropping some major January transfer news. There's been a big meeting between Ruben Amorim, Jason Wilcox, Jim Ratcliffe. They've made some big changes to things happening inside United, how operations are going to work, and are drawing up transfer targets and big plans for the window. We're going to talk about the big meeting. Erik ten Hag has been linked with jobs to Wolverhampton Wanderers. My stepdad is actually a Wolves fan, and I was joking to him yesterday, maybe you should go for Ten Hag. I didn't think that Ten Hag would go to Wolves, but, there is a possibility there, which is pretty mad. And other updates coming in on Sesko Kone. Sesko Kone is back from his injury. Sesko Kone is returning. And yeah, we've got a lot of little things to talk about as well. Spurs having some injury issues, some dressing room issues. Our next game is against Spurs, which is why it's relevant to us. And more. But I hope you guys are doing well. I hope you guys are having a good day. I'm going to get right into the news in a second. But Ginger Bish says that I was quite pleased with the Forest game, not sure what everyone was losing their minds over. It wasn't a game to lose your mind over. I think it was just a winnable game where I felt that maybe we didn't show up and do our best. At the end of the day, we've got 13 out of 15 points. Have we? No, we've got 10 out of 12 points. We've got 10 out of 12 points from our last 4 games. At the end of the day, 10 out of 12 points from our last 4 games are very good. And you've got to look at the bigger picture. Was I happy with the Forest game? No, I don't think the performance was inspiring. I don't think we were creating a lot of chances. And I do question some of Amorim's subs, but I also question the intensity from the players. It could have been higher. But it wasn't an atrocious performance. We didn't lose. We didn't lose 3-0. If we lose 3-0 to Forest and put in the kind of performance we put in against Manchester City, I'm like, But when you draw 2-2 with Forest and it's a mixed performance and Sean Dyche has come in and stabilised them, it's definitely not a game to cry about and scream about, If we were playing like that every week, then yeah, but because we've had 3 wins and then we have that 1 draw, it's not the end of the world. So I agree with that. I wouldn't say I was pleased with the performance, but it just wasn't great. Like the second half was pretty poor, and I think the subs I think there could have been some adaptations and some subs. I think, Mount and Xerxes could definitely have come on in that game the last 20 minutes. I wasn't too particularly pleased with the second half. It took a brilliant Ahmad goal to get us a point. But yeah, I want to talk about, obviously, the transfer news. I want to talk about the transfer updates. But I quickly want to touch upon Benjamin Sesko before I get into the main stories. Samuel Luckhurst said that sources at Manchester United have stressed how much more compatible Benjamin Sesko is than Rasmus Hojlund in the team. So that has come out from Samuel Luckhurst, that Sesko is more compatible than Hojlund in the team. And I agree. Some people are saying they don't see the upgrade between Sesko and Hojlund. With the long ball approach, with the way that Amorim wants to play, I do think that Sesko is a better player than Hojlund. Hojlund's doing well in Italy, but if we watch what Hojlund did the whole of last season at Man United when he got 4 Premier League goals, Sesko's already halfway there. I think that Sesko brings more than Hojlund to this team. I think that Sesko is raw. I don't think Sesko is perfect. I don't think he's ready-made. But he's not getting a lot of service. He's not getting a lot of help. He's incredibly raw. But I think we're seeing what Sesko can bring, and I do think he probably will bring more than Hojlund would of this season. However, Gary Neville's going on Sesko a bit. The jury is out. He's well off it compared to some of the other signings Manchester United made up front, like Cunha and Mbeumo, which, no one's been as good as Mbeumo. Cunha's also been very good. But it's hard. I think it's unfair to expect Sesko to hit the ground running like Cunha and Mbeumo. Cunha and Mbeumo are 3-4 years older than Sesko and have got 3 years experience in the Premier League. And also they're playing in the 10 role where they're going to receive more of the ball. Sesko's playing in the striker role that no one has thrived in since Cristiano Ronaldo. And we don't create a lot of chances. We don't create chances in open play. He's much younger. He has no Premier League experience. So first of all, I think it's unfair to compare Sesko like that. Gary Neville says that Sesko looked awkward. He had a couple of good opportunities against Forest, but his touch wasn't quite right. Sometimes Sesko's touch is good, sometimes it's not good. I agree with that bit. But for 80 million, which is incorrect, 70 million, you can say he's young and settling in, but you want a bit more. I get why people might want to see a bit more, but I think he's brought more than what Hojlund would have brought. I think that, yes, we overpaid for him. It doesn't take a genius to say that we overpaid for him. But Sesko had 3 good games in a row. He got a goal versus Brentford. He got a goal versus Sunderland. He had a good cameo versus Liverpool. He had a very good game versus Brighton where he got an assist. Sesko's had a couple of good games, has a pretty poor game versus Forest. He's given the ball away. Things aren't going his way versus Forest. And because he has a poor game versus Forest, back on the Sesko. Oh, yeah, you know what? Sesko's not been good enough. I want to see more. And I get that maybe we want to see a few more goals. We want to see a bit more of this and that. But he is a young player. And I think, I don't look at Gyökeres and think Gyökeres has brought any more than Sesko to the league. And Gyökeres is playing for a team that creates more chances, that is a better team. Gyökeres obviously got his goal versus Burnley, but if it wasn't for that goal versus Burnley, Gyökeres would have the same amount of open play goals as Sesko in the league. So I look at it and I don't look at Sesko and think, okay, he's amazing, he's worth every penny. No. I think I want to see more from Sesko, but I look at Sesko and I think I've seen enough of Sesko to make me feel confident he will be good for us, and there is good and promising signs, but it may take time. I think to write off Sesko after 3 games would be absolutely nuts. The Sesko criticism's a bit weird, as you said, Alice. How much more has Gyökeres done? Exactly. Football is more than scoring goals. Sesko's way better in build-up, and the power on his sudden shooting looks dangerous. Exactly. He's more dangerous in the box. He's more dangerous in build-up. He's more dangerous at winning headers. Like, for me, unless you sign Harry Kane or Erling Haaland, we're not going to be expecting madness from our strikers. We aren't. But we wanted someone that brought more than Hojlund. He brings more than Hojlund. I think Ekatiké's probably looked the best out of the new strikers signed, followed by Voltemade. But I don't think that Gyökeres has looked much better than Sesko. I don't think Delap has looked worse than Sesko. I know Delap was half the price, but, Oh, what was that? I know Delap was half the price, but Sesko looks better than Delap. He doesn't look much worse than Gyökeres. I don't get, okay, Sesko's awkward, his touch is bad, this and that. His touch wasn't great last game, but Sesko had 3 good games before the Forest game where he showed what he can do. He's had goals and assists, he does contribute, he does show elements of his game, he's raw. Not every game is going to go perfect for Sesko. Not every game Sesko's going to be good. Sesko is incredibly raw, but I've seen enough of him to think this is an improvement on Hojlund. There is definitely a player there. For me, there's definitely a player there. Did we overpay for him? Absolutely. Absolutely. He didn't cost 80 million, but he was 70 million. So I think we overpaid for him? Absolutely. But I just think that people are very quick to criticize Sesko. Very, very quick to criticize Sesko. And I'm like, leave the young lad alone. New league, new environment. He's settling in. I think he's a very good young striker. And time will tell. Never mind Sesko. We need to start defending better. 16 goals conceded from 9 crosses or corners. To defend better, 16 goals conceded, 9 from crosses or corners, considering we say we're dominating centre-backs in the air is not a good look. I agree. I think it's more positionally and switching off. What we need is a box-to-box midfielder and a deep line playmaker. Wharton and Anderson would be perfect. Sell Bruno and bring in Gibbs-White. Thoughts on Paqueta, guys? I don't like Paqueta that much, to be honest. Gibbs-White, I wouldn't... Look, Bruno I think could go this summer. Maybe you look at someone like Gibbs-White, potentially, yeah. But Bruno's just an elite chance creator, and I feel like Bruno's, unless you get Cole Palmer, I'm thinking, how the hell do we replace Bruno? But I want to talk about transfers, because obviously a lot is changing inside Manchester United. Amorim is completely changing the transfer plans, which I want to get into. So I want to give you a big transfer update in regards to United. Private talks have now been held between Amorim and the Man United board ahead of the January window. Fabrizio Romano confirms Amorim has outlined his full transfer plan. He's made it clear he no longer wants short-term fixes and only players who can help now and in the future to come in. He doesn't want stopgap Weghorst-type signings in January. He wants players that he knows is going to help. He doesn't want a Gallo. He doesn't want Weghorst. He wants players that he would sign in the summer as a long-term signing to come in January. And there's several players who want more minutes that could also be moved out in January. We've spoken about Xerxes. We've spoken about Maino. But first things first, what we do know in general is Man United, Ineos, Wilcox, Ratcliffe have had private talks about the January window. Romano was confirmed. Amorim has outlined a transfer plan, made it clear what he wants, proper signings, permanent deals, Romano actually said in private, the conversations have started between Amorim and the board for the January window, the opportunities and what to do with players who want to play more. So Romano has come out and said, look, there is meetings going on. There is meetings going on with Amorim and the board. They have officially started about the January transfer window. who could be available, who they could sign, but also potential players that they could offload. It's also been said by Romano that conversations in private have now started between Amorim and the board ahead of the January window. Romano is now confirming United are actively planning for January. Now, I don't know if you watched my video yesterday, but I think that's big news from Romano. I think that's bigger news than what people think from Fabrizio Romano when we're hearing that Amorim is actively planning for January, because that says to me the Ineos and the Man United board believe Ruben Amorim will be manager in January. That, you know, these came out and Jim Ratcliffe came out and spoke about giving Amorim 3 years. The fact that Ineos are really trying to get the January transfer window right for Amorim and making plans for long-term January signings says to me it's another indication of they want to give Amorim 3 years and they want to give Amorim the backing, and they believe if they give Amorim the backing, he will succeed. I think, you know, that's quite big in that sense of it shows maybe a strong backing from Ineos to Ruben Amorim, the fact that they right now are having meetings over the January transfer window. They're having conversations about it. They're making plans, and Ruben Amorim wants long-term plans. So I think that's a sign of, okay, Ruben Amorim is potentially going to be backed. It was also said that Ruben's message to the board was he wants players who can help today and tomorrow. Ruben Amorim's made it clear that he does not want short-term signings. He wants players who can be in the squad long-term. So again, Amorim is really changing up Man United's transfer plans. January has always been used for those short-term stopgap signings, but Amorim is now saying, I don't want these short-term stopgap signings. I want players that are here for the long term. I want players that can help now. And, you know, Ruben Amorim is having a meeting with the Manchester United hierarchy. He's had a meeting with the Manchester United hierarchy, this last week, where they are talking about January. They are talking about the future. They're making plans, and they're making plans for long-term signings, which again is a suggestion of Ineos don't see Amorim going anywhere as well, which is a big sign there. I'm just going to quickly go and get my drink, guys. I will be back in like 30 seconds. One sec. I am back. I have a really dry mouth. I thought, oh, fuck's sake, I've broke my laptop charger. Yeah, twat. I just put my chair on my laptop charger and it just collapsed there. But what I was going to say before I went off is I wanted to talk about these stories because we're obviously, this is two of the things that Romano dropped. I'm going to discuss the other stuff in a second. But we did cover this in my video yesterday, if you did watch that, about obviously what this means. So, right now, Romano's confirmed Man United have officially started private conversations ahead of the January window. Amorim and the board are having conversations about what Amorim wants. Long-term signings, they're looking at it, they're having conversations about it, what we're going to do in January. As I said in my video yesterday, Man United like to ignore the January window or bring in stopgap signings. Amorim is making sure that doesn't happen. No more ignoring the January window, no more stopgap signings. If we're going to make a signing, it's going to be a long-term signing, and Amorim is there actively looking to change Manchester United's transfer strategy. Does this mean we should get excited about January window? Not necessarily. I think it's too early to get excited. I think in December we will have an idea of what could be done. I think if Man United could sign Elliot Anderson for 80 million in January, they would go and sign Elliot Anderson for 80 million in January. But I don't know if United can do that. I think if United can do something, they will do it. And the reason I believe United will do it and do something big if they can do it is because Manchester United know they're going to get 26 million for Rashford from Barcelona, and they're going to save 16 million a year in wages. So Man United have basically made 40 million from Rashford going to Barcelona. They know that. Manchester United also know that they're going to get 40 million for Rasmus Hojlund. So Manchester United are looking at it, and they know that they're probably going to get a bit of money for Greenwood because he's expected to leave Marseille at the end of the season. We have a 50% sell-on clause. So I do think Manchester United are happy to spend big in January because I think Manchester United have a feeling that money's coming the way. But I think Man United aren't going to buy a player for the sake of it. If they see a player available in January, but they're not sure if he's good enough for Man United, they're not going to buy him. Man United want players that they think is ready now and are good now. Yeah. As much as I scrutinise everything Amorim does, I'm starting to get really excited with him. Got rid of the bomb squad, and now the transfer window is changing. One thing I've always said about Amorim, and I've criticised Amorim's management, his tactics a lot, but I've always said with Ruben Amorim, the one area that, no matter whether you're Amorim in or whether you're Amorim out, the one area we cannot criticise Amorim with is his recruitment. This is probably Ten Hag's biggest downfall. The players that Ten Hag wanted to get rid of, and the players that Ten Hag wanted to keep, and the players that Ten Hag wanted to sign. The players that Amorim wanted to get rid of, Garnacho for Cunha, Anthony for Mbumo, upgrade. Amorim wanted to get rid of the bad eggs and bring in some really good signings. Amorim wanted Baleba, Semenyo, Cunha, and Mbumo type players. Ten Hag wanted all of his ex-Ajax players. I think as much, no matter how you feel on Ruben Amorim, the fact that the players that we're being linked to in midfield are Santos, Baleba, Anderson, Wharton, and Stiller. They're probably the 5 best midfield options we could be linked to, which is pretty nuts. When I'm talking realistic, we can't get Casado, we can't get Tonali, we can't get, Declan Rice. They would be great as well. But when I'm talking like 5 realistic potential players that we could get in 2026, we're being linked to those names. We, in my opinion, are being linked to the right kind of names. And, whether you like Amorim or not, when it comes to the transfer window, when it comes to the transfer strategy, Amorim has had a big influence on that. Amorim is getting rid of the players he sees as troublemakers. Amorim is getting rid of the players that need to go, and Amorim is bringing in the right kind of players. Most of his signings I've been very, very happy with. So, yeah. But I don't know if we can get excited about the January window because, look, we don't know who's available. Man United will sign a good player if there's a good player available that wants to come to them. But if there's not a good player available in January, because a lot of the good players will not be available in January, we may wait. We may wait till the summer. Continuing on, and I think Jason Wilcox also speaks about this and 2 big sort of rule changes as well that's now been implemented. But Jason Wilcox confirms that United will invest further in the playing squad. So we know from, as of now, in the last week, Jason Wilcox has confirmed that Ineos want to invest further in Amorim's playing squad. Romano confirmed yesterday that we've officially opened talks internally about the January window, and Ruben Amorim is discussing with the hierarchy what to do in the January window and who the potential targets can be. What we know, this is what Jason Wilcox said, we know what we need to do. We know there are things to improve in the team to regularly compete for the Premier League and Champions League. We need to invest in the team and recruit the right players, talented players who can also handle the pressure and team progress. They must have the right character and bring something different to the team. So Jason Wilcox, again, confirming, Ineos are looking to spend, Ineos are looking to strengthen this Man United side. They know they need to invest. Ineos know they need to invest, and Ineos know that if they can get someone in January, they need to do that. Ruben Amorim is putting pressure on them to do something in January. Ruben Amorim is letting them know what he wants. But Ruben Amorim has had influence on the transfer strategy because the 2 areas that we're looking at is this. Players who can handle the pressure and help the team progress. Players who can handle the pressure of the Premier League and help the teams progress. And they must have the right character and bring something different to the team, which is what Cunha ticks, and Mbumo ticks, Lamons ticks, Bish Bash Bosh. So Ruben Amorim's come in and he wants good players that can handle the pressure playing for United, but he wants players with a certain type of character. Different. It could bring something different to the team. That's 2 things that Amorim wants to implement. So that's quite big there in itself. I'm going to look at the chat in a sec. Would you take Wharton? Absolutely. Amorim arguably best manager post-Ferguson. I know results won't say so, but trust the process. I don't think he is. I think his results-wise, he's statistically been the worst manager post-Alex Ferguson. I think Amorim, in terms of his recruitment and knowing which players to get rid of and keep, is probably the best since Sir Alex Ferguson in that sense of he knows who we should get rid of and he knows who we should keep. But I don't think as a manager, he's been our best since Sir Alex. I think that would be crazy considering we finished 15th and he still does have our lowest points per game total. But I do think as a guy that knows his recruitment and who we should be investing in, that's where he's good at. So, we've got a major transfer update coming in from Romano that we are talking about January. We're making plans for January and United are looking to invest in the January window, which is good to know. We also have Jason Wilcox coming out and saying, United are going to need to invest further to improve. And obviously they've implemented 2 rules about the kind of players they want to sign. They need to be players that can handle the pressure of playing for United, have that right personality, have the right mentality, which is good. In the past, and if I go back to this bit by Jason Wilcox, where he said, we need to invest in the team and recruit the right players, talented players who can handle the pressure and help the team progress is what we need, but they also have to have the right character. This is really important. Jadon Sancho did not have the right character. He did not have the right mentality, and that's why he flopped. We need to make sure that if we're spending big, it's players with a certain level of mentality and character, which Jadon Sancho, Alexis Sanchez, among many other top names that we signed did not have. So yeah, we need to invest in the team and recruit the right players, We want talented players that can handle the pressure, that have the right character to bring something different. Because you can be a great player. Jadon Sancho was a great player, but if you have the wrong character, if you have the wrong attitude, you will not be a great player all the time. And that's what's happened with the likes of Sancho. And Neil and Talks of Wolves. Yeah, we will talk about Ten Hag being in Talks of Wolves as well. Big up Gaz. Big up Gaz saying smash those likes on the video, Alice. What about the UAE? Can they not buy a percentage? We'll have to wait and see what happens with that. It's gone quiet. They can, but I think the UAE are the type of people that want to own the whole club, not a little bit. Yeah. Hi, Alice. I'm a Barcelona fan, but I also follow Man United because of you. I appreciate that. It must be painful to watch Man United compared to Barcelona at times. What are we looking at here? Alice, do you think we'll spend in January? I think we're going to bring someone in January, yeah. I don't know who, but I think we'll bring someone in January. But what we know is this. Ruben Amorim is having meetings with the board over the window. He's having meetings with the board already about the January window. Ruben Amorim is not mucking about, okay? When it comes to recruitment, getting players in and getting players out, Ruben Amorim does not muck about. It's going down. He's having the meetings with Wilcox. He's having the meetings with Ratcliffe. He's making it clear to Wilcox and Ratcliffe, I need this, and this. We need to do something in January. He's also made it clear, and he also made it clear, when we sign players now, we're going to look at that attitude and mentality, which is what we didn't do in the past. Amorim is changing a lot. Amorim is changing a lot inside Man United in terms of, let's not do these stopgap signings in January. Let's not do these short-term deals. Let's bring in players with this mindset and this mentality. Ruben Amorim's changing a lot inside United. There's big meetings over who Man United should sign, the type of players they should sign, and the type of players they should avoid. And Amorim leads that. So there's a lot going on in Man United. There's a lot changing. And as I said, I want to get into my notes. Oh, can you see that? Jason Wilcox has confirmed United will invest further to back Amorim's rebuild. Focuses on signing players with the right mentality to handle pressure and improve the squad. Amorim and the board have aligned. The rebuild officially starts in January. Expect major business boosts and bold decisions in the coming weeks. What we know at the moment is there's private talks with Amorim and Man United ahead of the January window, and Romano's confirmed this. Romano's confirmed that Amorim does not want short-term fixes. He wants long-term players. He wants to change the strategy. And there's also looking at solutions for players that want more minutes. We now know that Wilcox has confirmed that United are going to invest further into Amorim's rebuild, backing up the point that they want to give him 3 years, which quietens the speculation around Amorim's future more. The focus is on signing players now with the right mentality that can handle the pressure. There's 2 new sort of rules being implemented there on who we sign. And Amorim and the board are aligned. The rebuild officially starts in January, which is good stuff to know. Hopefully this is the open heart surgery that Ragnar was talking about. Hopefully. If results go really bad, Amorim might not even be in January. True. But I think the fact that results have gone a bit better and they seem to be making a lot of plans with Amorim says to me I think he will be here in January unless we literally lose every game between now and January. You almost lost to Forest, don't get too gassed. I mean, I don't think anyone got gassed after the Forest draw. I think people were disappointed, to be honest. People saying we should have kept Hojlund and Sesko's poor. I disagree. I don't think Hojlund would be giving us more than Sesko right now. I'm just going to take a sip of this and then I want to get into the other stories. There's been a few other interesting stuff that was been said that I want to dive into in today's show. First of all, former Manchester United manager Erik ten Hag is among the candidates being considered by Wolves. I think Wolves are going to probably get Gary O'Neill back, which is absolutely nuts. I mean, if I was Ten Hag, I'd avoid Wolves. I think Ten Hag's taken on I look at Ten Hag, I think he took on the Man United job, which is arguably the hardest manager job in football. You then said yes to being the successor to Xabi Alonso, which is nuts, because nobody's going to be able to do what Xabi Alonso did at Bayer Leverkusen. And then Bayer Leverkusen sold Wirtz, Frimpong, Jonathan Tah, sold all the best players. Do you want to go to a Wolves side that have arguably the weakest squad in the league? Because Wolves didn't do enough investment in the summer. They lost Semedo, who was a good player for them. They lost Nori, that was a really good player for them. And they lost the best player in Cunha. And they didn't do much in the window, Wolves. So I do look at Ten Hag and think, if I were you, I'd want to go to a club where there was a bit more stability and there was better players to work with. I'm quite surprised by that. I'll be intrigued to see if he does go to somewhere like Wolves. Um, but they could also go for someone like Gary O'Neill potentially to return. But I think I do think there's a good manager in Ten Hag. I mean, look what he did at Ajax. But I think he's picking the wrong kind of clubs. You know, he's a good manager. He's a good manager, but will he keep Wolves up? I think you can be a good manager, but I think like you can be a good manager that can win leagues, but that doesn't necessarily mean you'll be a manager that can keep people up. I think it's a very different thing managing a team and trying to stop them getting relegated and managing a team and trying to win the league. If I was Wolves to go for McKenna or Carrick, they have been linked to Carrick, which is quite interesting. But this is one to keep an eye on. Bring Elliot Anderson. I think we all want to bring Elliot Anderson at this rate. We need to build momentum by beating Spurs. It'll be a statement for Europe. I agree. We need to go and get a result over Spurs, who'll be playing midweek. That will be tired. They're having dressing room issues. Burville's picked up an injury. Spencer's having some issues. That's going to help us. But yeah, it'd be interesting to see what happens if Ten Hag goes to Wolves. In terms of other updates, because people are always asking about Sesko Kone, Sesko Kone is now set to return to action after this month's international break. Sesko Kone has been out for 2 months with a fractured eye socket. He picked up a very nasty injury, and that's why he's not been involved in first-team training. That's why he's not been involved or spoken about a lot lately. Nothing's going on with Sesko Kone. He's just been injured. If he was fit and didn't pick up that injury, he probably would have been in first-team training because he's one of the highest-rated players in the under-21s, but United have got to be careful because he's picked up an injury. I've actually seen a couple of people speak about Diego Leon as well, interestingly. People aren't happy with Delo. Delo has been poor lately. I think we can all admit Delo's been poor lately. Seen a couple of people mention Diego Leon's name. Should Amorim give him a chance? I think if we were in the Europa or the Carabao Cup, we probably would have given him a chance, but I think in the Premier League, he's kind of reluctant, especially if we have one game a week and we've already got Dorgu that can play if we can't play Delo there as well. Anderson or Baleba, if you have to choose who you're choosing, guys, let me know down below. Who would you choose, Elliot Anderson or Baleba? If you'd have asked me this 2 months ago, I would have said Baleba. If you'd asked me this 2 months ago, I would have said Baleba because Baleba last season was insane. But I would say Elliot Anderson right now. And the reason I say Elliot Anderson right now is because he's doing it right now. And Baleba isn't. Baleba isn't performing, whereas Elliot Anderson is. So I'd probably say Elliot Anderson would be my choice, but I'm intrigued to know your guys' thoughts. Gaz says Anderson as well. How did Erik ten Hag win 2 titles? Because Erik ten Hag was a good manager. Erik ten Hag's talent ID and recruitment's what let him down. If Erik ten Hag had allowed Ineos to choose all his signings, I think we would have been in a better place. I think Erik ten Hag signing all these ex-Ajax players, all these Dutch players, all these players with connections to him, I'm looking at players like Weghorst and thinking, I want him. I think Erik ten Hag's recruitment and talent ID is what let him down. I mean, Anthony. The money spent on Anthony was nuts. Villa, Brighton and Newcastle will overtake Man United soon. Will they, though? Newcastle are nowhere near us at the moment in the league. Newcastle are in a horrid time in the league. So, yeah, I don't know about that. If I was McKenna, I'd rather go to Wolves and Celtic. I agree. The Prem's better than the Scottish League. So yeah, in terms of injury updates, Tottenham could be without some of the most important players. Kudus is Tottenham's only informed attacker right now and only real threat. He could be out. Burville was the player of the season last year, and Spence has been very good. If Tottenham come to the Man United game without Kudus, Burville, or Jed Spence, I'm quite confident. I know we haven't beaten Tottenham in the last 5 meetings, but I would be quite confident if they didn't have those players. I really would. Because without Kudus, their attack sucks. So yeah, sort of rounding up what we spoke about today. We spoke about Lutkow's report that United are happy with Sesko and think he brings more than Hojlund. We obviously spoke about Gary Neville's comments on Sesko, saying that Sesko is awkward and he wants more from Sesko. Obviously, we spoke about the major transfer meeting that Romano has confirmed between Ruben Amorim and the Man United hierarchy. There's been a big meeting there where Ruben Amorim has been laying down the law. He doesn't want short-term fixes. He wants long-term solutions. There's been private conversations in and around what to do in January, and United having serious conversations about the January window, which suggests to me if the right player is available, United are going to spend money on them and bring that player in, and that there is money to spend in January. Because it's been reported that it's now private conversations between Amorim and the board ahead of the January window going on. And Amorim has made it clear, I don't want you bringing me any short-term signings into the end of the season. I want signings that we bring in the summer. I want big long-term signings. So it'll be interesting to see if we can get that in January. But that looks like what Amorim wants and what the club want to do, which is good. And Wilcox even said himself that United need to invest further into the playing squad. He knows things need to improve. And Jason Wilcox has confirmed that United are going to invest further in the playing squad and back Amorim. Jim Ratcliffe came out and said he's going to give Amorim 3 years, or Amorim needs 3 years to succeed. And Man United are going to back Amorim by making sure they sign players with the right mentality. It's not just about ability, but Man United want players who've got bring something different, that have their own mentality to start this sort of rebuild process, which is interesting to hear. Spurs had 0.05 XG versus Chelsea. You don't need to start any defenders. I mean, it was crazy how Chelsea had completely outcoached Spurs like that. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed today's live stream. Thank you for watching. I will be back later today. See you next time. Bye.